As always, it is your host, Arachnid Soul. We're going to talk about the death of beautiful Bobby Eaton, a legend in professional wrestling. But before we get to that, please do me a favor, smash that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up. I would highly appreciate it. I got up this morning and went to Twitter the way I usually do, just to see if anybody messaged me or whatever. And I saw on the side column on the right, Bobby Eaton. And straight away I knew this is not gonna be good. I clicked on it and it turns out that beautiful Bobby Eaton has passed away. And I know a lot of people don't know much about Bobby Eaton, or maybe some people saw him towards the end of WCW with Nitro and Thunder, but Bobby Eaton was so much more. Bobby Eaton is unquestionably one of the best singles wrestlers of the past 30 years, and one of the best tag team wrestlers of the past 40. And when I talk about best tag team wrestlers, I'm not saying he was in the top 25. If you ask me, the Midnight Express, Sweet Stan, and beautiful Bobby Eaton, along with James E. Cornette at ringside, even though he was only Jim Cornette there, the greatest tag team I've ever seen in my life. Now, we have so many VHS tapes and so many DVDs and so many Blu-rays that have been released by WWE, WWF over the past 20 years. And they really have not done justice to Bobby Eaton. Bobby Eaton could do everything except talk, and that's why he had Cornette. Bobby Eaton, one of the favorite opponents ever of Nature Boy Ric Flair. Eaton and Flair had so many classics, everywhere from untelevised events to WCW Saturday Night. They went head up for Flair's World Championship in the main event of Clash of the Champions one year, 2 out of 3 falls. Just beautiful, the perfect name for him. Bobby Eaton, almost like a Bret Hart style wrestler in terms of everything he did in the ring, was textbook, looked flawless, was teaching you body slam, suplex, drop kick, lariat, and damn sure off the top rope guillotine leg drop 101. Professor Bobby Eaton. Bobby Eaton, a guy who does not get the respect he deserves as a singles or tag team wrestler, but also doesn't get the respect he deserves in Hall of Fames. In 2019, he was inducted into the top professional wrestling Hall of Fame, which is called the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. A spot well deserved. Bobby Eaton, also a guy in the back who every wrestler will tell you is the nicest guy they ever met. People talk about Mick Foley, and people talk about Bobby Eaton the same way. Eaton, also a guy who apparently would travel with everything you can possibly imagine in his suitcases. A lot of pro wrestlers tried to travel light. Bobby Eaton was the guy. He had toothbrushes, he had forks, he had frying pans, he had magazines, he had towels, anything that he could think of to bring from his house he had. And guys used to try to stump him. Hey Bobby, do you have wrist tape? Bobby would say yes. Hey Bobby, do you have neon green wrist tape? Bobby never wore neon green wrist tape, but he'd say yes to that too because it was in there. And he did not mind sharing his stuff. If you asked Bobby Eaton for anything and he had it, he would give it to you. Bobby Eaton is the guy who, if I had a pro wrestling school, a dojo teaching new students, new kids who wanted to be pro wrestlers, Bobby Eaton is one of the guys they would be watching videotape of. Bobby Eaton was great at everything he did in the ring. If you do not know about beautiful Bobby Eaton, please look up the Midnight Express, which was that great tag team he was part of, or please look up any of his singles matches. Bobby Eaton was the guy that you wanted on your roster. He was loyal. He could go in the ring. He would fit anywhere on the card. He was the WCW World Television Champion. That was the hardest championship to maintain, to keep in WCW. You defended that belt more than anyone, and the quality of athletes you'd get in the ring with was insane, especially during the 90s. Then you talk about Beautiful Bobby in the Midnight Express being both WCW United States Tag Team Champions as well as WCW World Tag Team Champions on numerous occasions. Some of the best matches that Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express, ever had. Some of the best matches that the Fabulous Ones ever had. Some of the best matches that the Fantastics ever had were against the Midnight Express. Bobby Eaton was that guy who had that spot-on psychology in the ring, always knew where he was in the ring, in the match, always knew exactly how to get prepared for these things. The gear that you saw him wear to the ring was okay. It was kind of flashy for the day, but not quite. But it didn't matter. And as you saw the zebra stuff and the neon patterns and all of that stuff come into fashion in the early 90s, Bobby had a line up the side of his trunks. He was the guy who was going to go to work in that ring, and for anybody who knew what they were watching, many times he was the best on the entire card. So underrated is Bobby Eaton, such a name that doesn't come up and get the proper respect that it deserves. So when I woke up this morning and saw that on Twitter, it was horrible. There's so many pro wrestlers that come and go, and you think, well, that guy was good, or I kind of like that guy. Bobby Eaton, in terms of professional wrestling, I might put him in my top 5 ever. He was that good. He's a man who deserves respect. He's a man who, if you've not seen a lot of the stuff that he did in the ring, please go look it up. You will not be disappointed. And a guy who was just an overall nice guy in the sport of professional wrestling. Unless you poked him or prodded him the wrong way, then yes, he would lose his cool. But that's Bobby Eaton. I'm sure other people are going to talk more about him. I'm sure people like Jim Cornette, who traveled with him, will be saying a lot more on Bobby Eaton. I'm sure you're going to be seeing, hopefully, some videos from WWF, even though they really don't seem to acknowledge Bobby Eaton, which is one of the reasons that you haven't heard of Bobby Eaton or haven't given him the respect he deserves or haven't sat down and watched the matches that he put out over a number of decades. Again, there's so many guys that could have passed away in professional wrestling, and I either wouldn't have said anything to them. I've kind of been gone, so even to come back just to make this video, I wouldn't have said anything about a lot of guys, but there's a certain class of athlete that has come down the pike in professional wrestling. Bobby Eaton, one of the truly elite pro wrestlers, both as a singles and a tag team wrestler, as I stated many times before. Please go check his stuff out. Bobby Eaton was a mainstay in WCW. I mean, you talk about the late 1980s, you talk about the early 1990s, all the way to the mid-1990s, really. Bobby Eaton was one of the top guys in WCW. And for people who have only watched WWE and are familiar with that style, WCW was a little bit different in the sense that the world champion was still the world champion, but the world tag team champions were looked at almost on that same level. The tag team belt was a premier belt, and it was basically 2 world champions. These 2 world champions would carry the company at times, would main event, would be the top of cards, and that's the position that beautiful Bobby Eaton was in. He was unquestionably good enough to be a 4 horseman anytime they would have asked him. But I'm going to let you go on that note. Once again, it has been your friend, Arachnid Soul. It is a sad day for professional sports, and namely professional wrestling. On the way out, if you have not already, please subscribe and hit that thumbs up. I will be bringing you more great content on this channel. R.I.P. Beautiful Bobby.